Hello guys, so in this video we are going to discuss what is the right time to feed our birds. Yes, because time matters when it comes to poultry. Management is a key factor if you want to be successful, because in my previous videos I have been discussing about several factors that lead to success when it comes to this business, and most people do not take them to be serious, and at the end of the day you are just operating on losses, and you are just regretting the business because you don't follow what we tell you. You just follow what you really want and what you feel is right. Things really don't work like that, guys. We don't put emotions in business. Whatever you feel like you want to do, you do it. It doesn't mean that whatever you do is right. No, guys. So you have to follow the exact procedures if at all you want to be successful when it comes to this business. Now, we are discussing what is the right time for us to feed our birds. Remember, there are three major factors that lead to success in poultry. One, it is what we call, number one is genetics. Genetics or breeds. So, I have been singing this song that there are three major factors that will determine your success. If at all you do not tackle them or you do not follow them, my dear, forget about profits, forget about this business, because it rotates on these three major factors. If they are tampered very well, that means you are going to be a happy farmer. But if at all you do not follow them, you are going to be a miserable farmer. So that is point number one, is breeds. You have to consider the breed that you are bringing on your farm. Remember, we are discussing what is the right time to feed our birds. But before we go on to that, we need to know the major factors that will help us to be successful. What is breeds? Number two is feeding. Feeding is very important. And point number three is management. So we are discussing the right time to feed our birds, and that one lies under management. It is one of the factors that has made so many farms to close. Why? Because they have failed to manage their staff very well. Their time, whatever what are the things they do on the farm, they have completely failed to manage them. And if you fail to implement systems, implement a standard where your farm should run on, that means at the end of the day you are going to close. Why? Because your production will be very low and cannot sustain the daily running of the farm. So what is the right time to feed your birds? It lies under the management, the way how you deal with your staff. Why? Because these staffs are so funny. You will tell them to feed your birds at exactly maybe 7 a.m. For them, they will wake up at 8 a.m. to feed the birds. Today they wake up 8 a.m. Tomorrow they wake up 7 a.m. Another day they wake up at 9 a.m. especially when they do not have anyone to supervise them. You are not there on the farm. That means they will do whatever they want. If you don't have a farm manager, everyone does whatever he really feels like he wants to do. And that is very dangerous. That's not how a farm or a business is managed. You must always have what we call leadership hierarchy. Leadership. If you don't have leadership, that means people will do whatever they want. There is a saying in Uganda, meaning many rats will never make they will never make a house for themselves. Because everyone will think, someone will do it. If I don't do this, this one will do it. That is it. That's how people behave when they do not have leadership under management. Leadership. You cannot do anything without, someone supervising you. Leadership is very important on your farm. So always implement systems through hiring people who can be on these workers. Yes, have a manager, have a supervisor, have some, a person responsible for that. If it's feeding, he's responsible for that and is very, accountable for that. If at all your birds are not fed in time, that means he is responsible for that. So all this lies under management. So what is the right time to feed our birds? The right time to feed your birds should be 6 a.m. in the morning. Why 6 a.m.? Remember, these birds, they have spent so much, so much time. Remember, you feed them at 6 a.m. Again, you feed them at around 12 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Now they have a gap, a wake gap, big gap till the next day 6 a.m. That means they will use all the energy throughout the day, throughout the evening, without any feeds. And in the morning they feel hungry. But for you just wait and feed them at around 9 a.m. That means your production will always be very low. If at all it's a layers farm, that means you will not have eggs. Why? Because these birds, most of the layer birds, or even local chicken, they lay eggs in the morning. That is when the production is high. You cannot expect higher production in the evening. Why? Because in the evening, birds are not making, they are not making eggs. The system is not active to make eggs. The system is always active at night. So when making a schedule, always make what we call a fixed schedule. Have a fixed schedule, because what farmers do, they keep on changing these feeding schedules. Today they feed them at 7 a.m. Another day 9 a.m. Another day 10 a.m. That's very long. These birds, I don't know how God created them, but they are the most sensitive creatures when it comes to time. They know the time, the exact time that you are supposed to feed. That's why by the time you enter into a poultry house, if I told you, you are supposed to feed them at 6 a.m. Every 6 a.m. you'll find them on the door when waiting for you to give them their feeds, because they know time even more than human beings. That's why they are the one which wakes up. They wake up. They flew these cocks. They make a lot of noise in the morning, and they wake you up. Why? Because for them they know time even more than us human beings. And before we had no time in the ancient world, people never had this watch, whatever, but they used it to to know the time depending on the cocks, how they used to cock, whatever, on their shadows. So all of that. Now back to our topic. These birds will need feeds in the morning, exactly 6 a.m. Why? Because they use too much energy. So now they need to to gain more energy than the one which is already wasted. So make sure you feed your birds at exactly 6 a.m. I know you don't want to wake up, you like sleeping, whatever, but make sure it's exactly 6 a.m. If I told you cannot wake up, please do not go into this business, because you make losses at the end of the day. Yes, so these layers will need much energy to push the eggs. So make sure that you feed them at exactly 6 a.m. so that by 8 a.m. because these birds will start laying by around 7 until 8. Most of the birds will be done laying. But if they do not have feed, that means they will not have the energy to push the eggs. Understand? So make sure you feed them in time. And also back to the after feeding them at 8 a.m. Then also in the afternoon we have to feed them at 12 p.m. to 12:30. Oh, the maximum should be 1 p.m. Do not exceed this time. Why? Because they feel hungry. Remember, you feed them at 6 a.m. Now it's time for their lunch. So how do we feed them? We feed them in 2 intervals. Yes, different intervals, because we don't feed them at once. No, because if they are supposed to feed at, for example, one layer feeds 120 grams, and local birds feeds 80 grams per day. Stroke broilers also 80 grams per day. Layers 120. Broilers more. So now when we are feeding these birds, we just divide these feeds into 2 parts. Yes, you just have to know that my birds will need 120 grams a day. Therefore, I am going to divide these feeds into 2 portions. One in the morning, another one in the evening. What farmers do, that's why you don't make profits. They overfeed their birds. If they are supposed to consume 120 grams, they will give them 200 grams. This is overfeeding. You are just feeding them on your profits. That's not how we are supposed to feed these birds. You just have to know that they are supposed to feed 120 a day. But how am I going to, to divide them? You just have to divide them into 2 parts. 60% in 60% evening and 40% morning time. Yeah, but what most farmers do, they feed them, they give them much feeds in the morning and they give them less feeds in the afternoon. That is wrong. Why? Because look at human beings, also our system, how the system works. We don't actually eat too much in the morning, because that one we call it breakfast. In breakfast we don't eat that much, but at lunch we eat. You know, you eat a lot of food, you put whatever, main course, desserts, whatever, you eat a lot of food on lunch time. So it's the same on chicken. They will eat much during lunch time. That's why most of your feeds, you find them in the morning, you just put the feeds and you know they will just eat a little bit of it and leave it there. But again, when you come, you have to change these feeds. Why? Because they have already put in it and they will not eat it. That is how you know stubborn these chicken are. They will not eat that feeds. They will just eat a small part of it and they leave it inside there. That means you cannot just bring your feeds, another feed, and you add it there. No, you have to remove that, you know, remove that leftover and put another new feeds. So all that goes into spillage and wastage. So why do you have to waste your feeds? So what you are supposed to do, give them a little bit of it in the morning. Give them 40% in the morning. Why? Because they need more energy. They need energy for laying or to make more meat. If they are broilers, if they are local chicken, you are going to sell them for meat. Give them 40 in the morning and 60% in the evening. Why? Because they will have much time in the evening. So they will be reluctant if at all the feeds are not enough, because you give them little feeds in the evening. That means these birds will be more reluctant and they will start developing what we call vices, poultry vices. Yes, they will develop vices. Why? We have what we call poultry vices, like cannibalism, feather pecking. You know, they will start fighting. They will start eating each other. Why? Because they are not satisfied. The feeds are not enough. You give them little feeds in the evening, yet they need more feeds in the afternoon than in the morning. So make sure that you give them enough feeds in the afternoon than in the morning. Morning is just breakfast, you know, just waking up. Give them a small bit of it, but more feeds give them in the afternoon. So that's how your birds will perform to the expectation, so that you do not develop they don't develop these vices. Because once cannibalism starts, or egg eating, actually, you know, even egg eating, they will start eating their eggs. Why? Because they lack food. You gave them little feeds. Now they will start pecking the eggs to eat the eggs. And once that develops, once you start seeing egg eating, it's gonna be difficult for you to control this vice, because they will start from eating eggs and they start eating themselves through cannibalism. And it's, you know, it's a very dangerous vice on your farm, and you don't want it to come on your farm. So follow those procedures. You will see a lot of production on your farm. See you in my next video. God bless you.